I think analytics is something that's very, very important. And in fact, it's one of those things why you should be doing business using, platforms like the internet or internet-enabled platforms such like mobile devices or anything like that. But anyway, I'm not going to talk too much about Google Analytics. Sort of like this won't be a presentation about you're going to click here and these are the features in Google Analytics. I'm not going to talk do that. You can sort of Google it on your own. But what I want to talk about is how you can use it to measure your business that you're going to start in a way that is useful, and look for key metrics and sort of dimensions or things you should measure that will make a difference, right? So, how many of you have been inside Google Analytics before? Okay, so quite a fair number, and I guess the rest, something that's quite different for you. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later on. So I'm going to run through a little bit what I do for a living. So in my company basically does web analytics for a lot of sort of companies. I think a large number of them are e-commerce companies and we help use data to help them acquire customers offline, online, or vice versa. So that's what we actually do. So we use a lot of data to help them figure out, hey, 60% of your revenues are returning visitors, and like 40% of them normally come back to the website 4 or 5 times a month, and they buy more than 250 ringgit a month, for example. Things like that. So you drill down, and then you can do whatever you want to do with them. So I'm just going to run through all this stuff. I'm going to skip all that stuff about my company, but so some of you may be interested in e-commerce, some of you may not. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to use e-commerce as an example of how you can use analytics in a way that helps you drive revenues, right? I think the principles remain very, very similar, and the ideas remain very, very similar. So I'm going to use e-commerce as an example. And since you just finished an awesome talk on e-commerce, I think it's just an extension of that. So this generally some numbers I sort of stole from the internet on like why people do e-commerce in Malaysia, and as you can see, Malaysia has retail sales of like 98 billion sort of US dollars. And I mean, according to this data from UBS, it's only sort of second behind Indonesia in terms of, or at least what this stat says. That's quite shocking to me, actually, to be honest with you. I didn't know Malaysians buy so much stuff. So 98 billion dollars, and the penetration of e-commerce is only sort of 0.2%. So basically, you're in a market where people shop a lot, and that's good, right? And I think it's an awesome opportunity for you guys to go in there to build a business around it, and it also has very, very strong mobile penetration and social media penetration relatively. So that means you can use platforms that work really well to target these people and find these people easy to show your products, right? So that's the basis of I think where I'm going to start. And why am I talking about this instead of Google Analytics proper is because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lay out the landscape for you so you know what is important to measure. So when you have e-commerce, that means it's about getting people to come to your site to buy over and over again, right? So that is one key tip for you. Can you guys hear me? Right. So key tip for you in terms of what metric to look for, so you can measure how often people come to your website. The second thing that you want to kind of look at is what are the platforms? So things like mobile. So like 40-50% of traffic comes from mobile. In fact, if you go to Google Analytics right now, probably your own website is probably showing that. And Google Analytics shows you all this stuff. So what Google Analytics does is it's this free software. It's an enterprise class analytics tool to help measure stuff on your website, on your mobile apps. And it's completely free, given by Google. And you just need to put that on your website and start tracking, right? You want to track more sophisticated stuff, you have to get someone to help you, do more sort of customization around it. But generally, just start by measuring on your website or your mobile app or where it is you're present in, right? So, in Malaysia, a lot of people use mobile, and actually they do, if your website is intuitive enough, people do actually buy stuff with a mobile device or a tablet, right? So please do get your site. Don't sort of scrimp on, hey, no, I'm not sure, I don't have money to make it sort of mobile friendly and stuff. Please don't do that. Just make sure that you do that, because like I said, 40-50% of people use the mobile. Would you want to start a business right off the bat and lose potentially 40-50% of people coming to your website? You don't, right? So please, make that as a minimum for your business to get it mobile friendly or mobile enabled in one way or another. And a lot of people prefer to shop at night, apparently. But again, I think it depends. It depends on the product. But this is what this source from Europe wanted to talk about. And I think the big plus point is people are willing to pay using online channels, whether it's a bank transfer or a credit card. I think that a lot of the other regions that we sort of look at, including like in countries like Vietnam or even Indonesia, payment is still a problem, right? So Malaysia, I think that is actually an advantage. People are still, people relatively are quite familiar paying online generally, right? Unless you're like so in the outskirts. In Klang Valley, it's pretty much, or big cities, pretty much there. So with that as a backdrop, I will sort of go into key areas that I think in any sort of business, I'm using e-commerce as an example. If you're using a mobile app, how many of you here are actually interested in running an e-commerce business? All right, so quite a fair number of you. So it doesn't matter if mobile app, etc. Or not, it doesn't matter. These are the 5 sort of areas that usually, as a framework, I would suggest people look for. And I didn't come up with this. It's from Dave McGraw's Startup Metrics for Pirates. If you haven't seen it before. So it's basically a framework you use to measure things, or even to build or plan things. So why would you want to measure in the first place? Because if you can't measure something, you don't know whether you're doing well or you're not, right? So if you don't know whether you're doing well or not, how are you going to scale it? How are you going to grow it? How are you going to increase it? Say, if you say you want to double your revenues in 6 months, on what basis are you doing that? So what sort of inputs do I put in to get the output? So do I put in $1 and I get $1.50 back? Do I put $1 in Facebook and I get $1.50 back, etc., or on Google AdWords? Or do I send more emails? Do I segment my data properly so I can just target people who spend more than $500 more often instead of blasting them emails every day? What do I do, right? So this framework helps you sort of make things easy, so you don't have to remember every single metric and dimension in Google Analytics. Till today, I don't know all the metrics and dimensions, and I don't know what all of them actually really mean. We still have to go sort of look in the documentation to figure out what they actually talked about. But knowing the metrics and dimensions is one thing, but if you can bucket them into what is important to you, firstly, acquisition, that means where are people coming from, where are the people you are targeting, where are they residing, meaning what sort of traffic sources are they coming from, are they from the search engine, are they using a social network, are they from a blog, are they offline, are they from TV? This is the question you need to ask yourself, how do people find you? And then when you have that, then you would correspondingly put that on your website or whatever platform you're using, so it captures all this information. So if you say social is important for you, then you put elements of things where you allow people to share stuff or interact socially with that. So acquisition is one thing. Second is, okay, when people come, so you know who are the people you're targeting, and the second thing is activation. It's how you get these people to sort of sign up or do stuff, right, on your website. So sign up means giving you, signing up for your service and giving you an email address, or signing, just getting to know you. So it doesn't mean it's a customer yet, but it could be someone who potentially is interested. So you need to define what you want them to do, and if it's a sign up or activating them, then you need to kind of give them things where they will be enticed to do that. You give them an offer, give them something, something that they will be willing to trade their contact details with you, right? So it's sort of like a bribe, right? And then the third thing you need to look at is, okay, I got people onto my website or my app. How do I retain them, right? So retention is important from two aspects. So retention can be, how long does a person stay in the app? Like, does that person engage in your website? So let's say it's Malaysia Kini or a website that has news or Malaysian Insider. Obviously, you want people to kind of read the news, as So a suitable metric will be what are the pages per visit, what is the duration they spend. So things like bounce rates and things like that, it could help. So then you can plonk in whatever metric it is in the right bucket, right? So then the other aspect of retention which is very important is how often do people come back to your app or your website? Because that is the metric that determines whether you got a shit product or a good one, right? Because you've got a crappy product, you've got a crappy website, no one's going to come back, no one remembers you, right? So that's the second very important aspect of retention. Then there's referral. Referral means, okay, so people come back to your website over and over again, that's awesome. Is that enough? It's because you can get them to tell others about it, right? And so when you tell others about it, that's where you can get new people coming in. You go back to the beginning of the book, and it becomes an acquisition strategy for you as well, right? So in referrals, again, a metric that a dimension you can look at, and the relevant metrics. So how much traffic comes from referrals, and who are these referrals? Are they social networks, or is someone writing about me all the time, etc., right? And last but not least, of course, how would you track revenue? What are the revenue metrics? Revenue metrics would be, of course, revenue is how much sales you get, daily, monthly, per product, and average order value, that kind of stuff. But it also means what are things that don't work. So things like, what's your abandonment rate, right? So when people add to cart, what's the percentage of people that actually bugger off and leave and don't buy? And these are the things you want to look at, and how many people actually, buy, and then they never really sort of, they don't give you, so they did not satisfy your product, they want some money back. So these are important metrics you have to kind of look at as well. So how does sort of Google Analytics help you? So the way I normally do it, so in any case, like this is like an example of like a funnel, right? A funnel of driving traffic to e-commerce websites, for example. Or you can use it for an ad if you want to as well. So you firstly you will have a touch point. So the most common ones are like Google Ads, and Facebook, and paid traffic, right? So the idea is, the first step to know what actually works for your business and what to measure is you need to break down your business into a funnel, right? A funnel is like a step-by-step process of how you get someone to know you, and then to the point where they will actually sort of give you money, right? So funnels work offline or online. So an example of offline will be like, so you get someone to the store, a department store. How would you do that? You have maybe newspaper ads, you get television ads, you get them to the store, and the store, they come to the store, you have elements of signage to get them to their products. Tell them that in your store you have this, this is where the sale, the 50% sale of shirts, t-shirts are, or whatever it is, then they will go there. And then it is presented all nicely and well, and you have the sizes, people will try it out, and then they buy, right? So there is that path that people go through. And similarly, online, you have that as well. So how that works usually is, if you're a new website, your goal is usually to get people to know you first, and not just know you and come to your site and then jump like sort of thing. you have to be able to put in components in there that will make them go through this path. So come in first time visit, and very rarely people do actually pay, like buy immediately, right? No one actually buys the first time around, okay? Very rarely, right? Unless they're searching for something very, very specific and they see that you have it and no one else has, they buy. But most often, people come to your site, they browse around, figure out, hey, this is an awesome site, it has this brand, it has this thing. Yeah, okay, I'm going to bookmark it, all right, okay, I'll take a look at it, and I'm going to just leave. So they leave, and then they will come back again, right? So the idea is to come back again, and then they will buy. That's usually the case. So if you break it up in these parts, the first time, so how do you get people in? So most people focus on like, all right, earlier I heard you guys asking what's the amount of budget you spend on. Actually, the budget, a lot of people, yes, when you're new, you're obviously trying to spend a lot of money on new customer acquisition. But I think you should also put in effort and budget to bring people back. I think that's where I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about, which is very, very important. I think Sean mentioned that earlier in his talk, how important his current visitors, his current customers are. So you need to break it down into these components. So first part is, so if you think that this is the right path, getting people coming back to buy is the way moving forward to establish what I call a customer lifetime value. Then make sure that you keep their contact details. Make sure you can remarket back to them. Make sure you can have a way to contact them. Get their phone numbers, I don't care, right? If they allow you to do that, right? So break into different parts. So if I were to spend $100 for someone to come to the website, how many people do I get signed up, for example, into the system? And then from there you measure, okay, from there, how many people who actually come back to the website the first time around, how often do they come back subsequently, etc. And then out of all these people, how many of them actually buy on average? So like, for example, some websites on average, if you can see, like they visit 8 pages per visit on average, and they spend like 10 minutes on your website, you can flash them an ad and say, I know you're really interested, right? And these are usually the characteristics of people who are very close to buying something. So you can segment it. Google Analytics does all that stuff for you if you want, right? So break it down. So before I go into all this detailed stuff, you need to know what your funnel is, right? And this is typical e-commerce funnel. So what is important for e-commerce as well is, and these are just some of the, I'm not going to go through every single one in detail, but like generally, if you know what's important in e-commerce, the no-brainer is annual revenue, right? So like annual revenue is like, okay, price multiplied by quantity, multiplied by 12 months, in total. So these are the things that drive revenue. But if you look at how you want to tactically drive revenue, you have to know how to measure things like, okay, price. How do I price my product to a group of people so that they will buy more? So if on average 80% of my customers only spend $150, I'm not going to source for products which cost like $500, right? No one's going to buy your stuff, right? And then if you do that, then you can source and target people who buy $150 or more. If generally you have people who buy lower, maybe $80 kind of stuff, maybe you send them $80 related stuff. And then you can figure out quantity, right? So quantity is broken down to frequency. Frequency means how often the person buys, multiplied by number of customers. So you can have specific campaigns where you can get people to buy more. That's why you have tactical campaigns to cross-sell and upsell stuff to increase the frequency of purchase by the same customer. And then you have campaigns for number of customers. You get new customers. Then that's your usual strategy where you just talked about earlier, how much do I spend acquiring new customers? Then that is the budget you use to spend to get new customers. So at different stages of your company, you would have different types of campaigns to run to drive revenues, right? So what I'm trying to say from this little equation here is promotions are tactical and depends on what element. You can break it down. You have tactical campaigns and measure things like what kind of campaigns are price focused or for price sensitive people. What kind of tactical campaigns do you drive frequency? What kind of tactical campaigns do you drive new customers? So at any one time, you need to balance your budget among these different things. So it's not a one size blanket, so yeah, I have 100,000 a month, I'm just going to blast it out and getting new customers stuff, right? So that's just number one. Number two is where are my customers? So who are these people that I'm really going to target? Where means, geographically, which websites, who are they, what sort of behaviors. So things like if you use Facebook, you can demographically target them very, very accurately, right? So certain platforms do better in terms of demographic targeting, some do not as well. So like search, for example, is very different from like things like Facebook or display, that because people are already sort of predisposed to looking for something that's tapping in an existing demand already. So figure out where your customers are. So if you're a person who sells, so like I have a website that sells sleep apnea products. It's pretty niche. You know what sleep apnea is? Right, so sleep apnea is only for people who suffer that, or like relatives who know that will know of these products, and they will go and make very specific keywords, and they'll buy the product, right? And you have enough relevant information on the site to tell them, how much it costs and things like that. So it's very specific. That source of traffic, so search is a very, very important source of traffic. And so you can measure things like search. What sort of keywords? Unfortunately, Google doesn't give you organic keyword information anymore, and you can only get it from paid search information. So what you do is you buy Google Ads and then figure out which ads sort of keywords work, and you sort of do a little bit of SEO around those keywords, right? So where are my customers? And then the next is, what is my funnel? The thing I talked about earlier. So you figure out what your funnel is. So it could be similar to what I told you. It could be something more elaborate. I don't know. It's up to you to figure that out. So what is the customer lifetime value? Customer lifetime value means if you know that if you make a person buy stuff on your website. So I think the point of inflection of a lot of e-commerce website or even a mobile app is when someone is familiar with your app. That means if you see that person coming back again already a couple of times, you've sort of broken the ice and you have something that sort of works and people like it already. I think that's a good sign. And that's where the journey of measuring customer lifetime value begins. That's where if a person comes back over and over again, like Facebook has a customer lifetime value in terms of number of ads are being shown to them, etc. Right? So e-commerce would be like if you make someone buy something, on average, say for the next couple of years, or 12 month, 24 month, 36 month lifetime value calculation, how much are they really going to spend? Maybe they're going to spend 500 ringgit. So 500 ringgit a year. Then the next question you ask yourself, what's the target margin per customer? Margin means after expenses of your marketing or the variable cost. How much do you have back? So after 500, maybe after you less your product cost for e-commerce and variable cost, each customer you make a gross profit of 250 ringgit. And then you can work backwards. Okay, my margin is sort of like 450 bucks per customer, 50% margin. I'm willing to then work out what's the cost per customer acquisition. So then you can figure, hey, I don't mind spending 50 bucks because I don't mind earning 200 bucks a year from this one customer once I make them a customer already. And what you can do with 50 bucks, you can do whatever you want. You can buy ads, you can give it to your friend. Hey, I'm going to give you 50 bucks. You give me a customer, okay? That's fine too, right? Then you work backwards to work out what your budget is. So if you ask someone what's your budget every month, it's like asking me how long a string is, right? It depends, right? So that's why you need to measure all these things to figure out roughly how much does it take to make someone become a customer. And they become a customer, how much are they really going to kind of give me in return over a period of time? So you won't know this after you collect some data. So you need to be around long enough to know this first, right? So you don't give up so quickly, right? So and just not saw there's the recommended reading on a lean startup. That sort of encourages this sort of behavior of measuring, going gradually, knowing. So you have a rate, a success rate. Then you can, once you can measure it right, you can expand it, you can put more money in, more resources in it. Last but not least are these two things. The conversion rate, as I talked about. Conversion rate usually means if there are X number of sessions or visits to your website, and there are Y number of transactions, your your conversion rate is basically the number of transactions Y divided by X, right? So let's say your conversion rate is 1%. That means out of 100 sessions, not 100 people, 100 sessions, it could be the same people coming in, it doesn't really matter. 100 sessions, 1 transaction happens. Okay, so that helps you make the metric where, hey, if we get someone or a bunch of people to come 100 sessions to our website, on average, we probably be like 1 transaction, right? So that's the kind of numbers you can look at. Those are your numbers. Last but not least is after you got all this stuff, then you can start things like personalization and segmentation and targeting people differently based on their behaviors and spending habits. This is where you sort of maximize the revenue potential per customer, right? So you don't treat every customer the same, right? So back to this one, Google Analytics, how do you do it? Just go, that's the framework I talked about. Now is the tool. So those are the metrics that you sort of framework around how you measure it. So what tools can you use? So Google Analytics, I recommend not because I just use it to make a living, but because it's free. It's great for startups, right? You don't have to pay a ton of money for this, right? And of course, once you get a little bit more familiar with what you want, you can use other paid tools. So Google Analytics is free, so you just Google, you go to Google and key in Google Analytics and you just sign up for it. You just need to have a Google account. That means if you have a Google app or YouTube or Gmail account, you can sort of sign up for it already. So I'm not going to go through every single detail about Google Analytics, but I'm just going to show you the key things that I do. That I think are very important if you want to track transactions or any sort of success metrics on your website. There are these features. These are the most important features I think you can use and are very powerful on their own. So if you do this 5 things or use these 5 tools, I think you're in also a good position to start tracking a lot of things. And it's not going to come overnight. It's probably something that you probably need some developers to help you a little bit on. But understand if you don't know anything about all these tools, just take a picture of this and go to Google and find out more about this stuff. All right. So the first thing that you want to look at, the first feature that you should always look at and immediately set up on your website. You don't have to set up immediately. Is something called goals, right? So that means you set a point of success on your website as a goal, and you measure that. So for example, you're tracking a purchase. So you need to set a goal as a purchase. So you need to set something like, okay, when someone hits this URL, when someone pays for something and they go, thank you very much for your order, and it has all the details, that page, set it as a goal. So whoever reaches that goal means they bought something, right? So your goal is someone has bought something, set that as a goal. If the goal is someone has signed up, set that as a goal. If someone has called a telephone number, set that as a goal. By the way, you can track telephone numbers if you want. But it's not a straightforward thing, but you can do that in Google Analytics if you want to. So goals, set goals. Second feature that you always sort of look at is this thing called e-commerce tracking. If you're setting up e-commerce, you can use it for non-e-commerce sites as well. Basically, it's like goal tracking as well, but it's catered for things where you have like thousands of products, right? So goals has its limit. So if your company only has 1 product or 5 products, you can use goal tracking to capture conversions. But you have like 1,000, a couple hundred, then use this thing called e-commerce tracking, which automates. And I'll show you some screenshots of how the reports look like, right? So by the way, there's a new feature called enhanced e-commerce, which is very powerful right now, which drills down the funnels down a lot clearer for you, and even goes to the point where it tells you what modes of payments that people are sort of working and not working for you. But no, that's an enhanced feature. But the basic e-commerce tracking, if you're using e-commerce, you must have that in. So if you're using Shopify or Magento or any of these sort of platforms, usually it's quite easy to kind of flick a switch and a couple of switches and you get it installed. But if you're not, then you probably need to do some development work. So the third thing that's very, very powerful is this thing called the multi-channel funnels. That means when you look at what source of traffic gives you a conversion, by default, Google Analytics tracks the last click. Means if someone came to Facebook first, found out on your site about Facebook through a Facebook ad, sponsored post, and then they went to your website, they didn't do much, they came back again, and then they clicked, they they went to a blog, and then from the blog they wrote something about you, and then they clicked on the blog, and then they bought something, they will attribute by default the blog as the person who gave you the conversion, right? And that's not very fair in terms of the Facebook advertising that you bought, right? So it looks as if that Facebook didn't help you, advertising didn't help you at all. So multi-channel funnels helps you break down the different attributions of how these different sources help you. Some could introduce you to the site first and then assisted you second time, third time around, then only you bought through, say, a Google ad, and then they will attribute the whole, it gives you the whole entire sequence. So you know, hey, you know, AdWords didn't help me from the last click perspective, didn't help me close, it wasn't the sales guy that closed for me, but it helped me introduce people to my website because someone was keying sleep apnea products, and they found my website, you know, through the search. So they search function as an introducer to my website. So what you do, why is this important? Because it helps you allocate your budget according to which ones have a stronger preference in terms of helping you get new people in or helping you sort of close, right? Then the fourth thing I want to talk to you about is this feature called segments, right? Which I'm going to show you as well. So Google Analytics allows you to segment data. That means you can say, show me all the data that's concerning people who have bought only. I don't want to see all the people who did nothing on my website. I just want to see people who bought, how did they behave. And when you segment all the data that you have in the standard reports, it will just show you behavior or how people who bought, what they do. So where do they come from? Which link did they click? How long did they stay for? Right? Which city did they come from? So that gives you immediately the effects of analysis in terms of what works, right? So segments so you can segment plus standard reports means you segment and then you use it as a standard report. I'll show you some screenshots afterwards. So you segment by converters, people who convert. You also want to see non-converters, people who don't do anything for your website. So why do you want to do that? Because you want to see all the junk traffic coming once you paid this X company, all the media buying, they told you these great stories about how it works well. But you go to the non-converters and see, wow, shit, I got this traffic but zero conversions, right? And I paid all this money. So you know that's not really working out for you. So you don't do that. So you segment by converters, purchases, and non-converters. And then you can see, you can drill down to stuff. And you can also see reports, what I call, with the segments, what's a feature called in-page analytics. In-page analytics actually shows you where people actually click on the website. So you want to see people who buy, what do they click on? Just go to that segment and then shows you what people are clicking on. Then it tells you, hey, people are actually looking at the new deal section. People are looking at this product category, right? So things like that, right? Last but not least is this tool, which is soft. It's not part of Google Analytics directly, but it's a companion tool to Google Analytics. It's called the Google Tag Manager. And what it does is it helps you, the first thing it does is it helps you manage all the tracking codes on your website. So, for example, if you have a Google Analytics code with Google AdWords remarketing and all these other sort of fancy JavaScript stuff, you can just manage it under one code, which is basically a container. But what I'm going to talk about is useful from a marketing perspective. Not so much because it's a container, but because you can do a lot of fancy tracking with the Google Tag Manager easily without any programming knowledge. So you can set up things like event tracking. Event tracking means on your website how you track someone who watched your video, someone who clicked on the download PDF download. Right? Traditionally, you had to know a little bit of HTML and know where to kind of insert code. But if you know how to use the Google Tag Manager so a little bit, you don't need to do that kind of stuff. You can do it on your own. All right. So these are my selection of the top 5 features that you probably need to look at. I mean, this I know this is a basic course, but these are the things that I think will give you the biggest bang for your buck. Then you can go start sort of drilling down to slightly more more basic stuff. So this is a little screenshot where you can set up your e-commerce tracking. So it's actually just Google e-commerce tracking, and then in the analytics, under, if I'm not mistaken, under I think it's view settings, if I'm not mistaken, or property. I can't remember which one was. You can just click enable e-commerce, and you will set it up for you in Google Analytics. But then if you're then your shopping cart behind, you need to set it up as well, or you can get a programmer to help you do that. The other thing that you also may want to look at is also knowing site searches. I know I didn't mention that earlier in the slide, but this is another feature that would be helpful for you. So site search basically means you set it up, it measures what people are keying in, searching in your website. So it helps you figure out if people are searching for something that you don't have, and if there are a lot of these people searching for things that you don't have, maybe you want to kind of stop them, right? So you can use them in your website. So track what people are searching for in your website, right? So those are the features of top. Now, what are the key metrics that are important? So for me, I think for whether it's e-commerce or not, the number one metric I think I mentioned just now is what is the returning visitors sort of percentage like? So how often do people come back to your website? If your website is e-commerce, it should be like sort of 60% of people coming back. Your traffic should be made out of people who keep coming back to your website. Of course, initially when you're new, you'll probably buy a lot more traffic, get a lot of non-new traffic. Then you should look at, and you're getting transactions, then you should look at what's the revenues, what are the revenues breakdowns according to types of visitors. So if your revenue breakdown is made up of returning customers, which is usually the case, should be like 60-70% as well of your revenues should be people who come back over again, right? And that means you need to do things like sending them emails or like remarketing and stuff like that, where they add follow you around, that sort of thing. So first metric I look at is returning visitors. That shows that you have a decent product. Returning visitors by percentage by source. So are all these returning visitors, which channels are they coming from? So that helps you, hey, I get a lot of returning visitors from search, right? And they're keying in like my brand name just because they remember me. That's great, that means they're good. But how about people returning visitors coming from constantly from a particular promotion? So a coupon website, maybe you want to work with the coupon website and say, hey, you get me a lot of returning customers, let me work with you with something. So visitors percentage by source. So they see there's a first two, a very strong emphasis of getting returning visitors. Third is sort of returning customers percentage of revenue. So what's the difference between returning customers and returning visitors? Now, Google Analytics allows you to track returning visitors, but it doesn't really do a very good job of knowing whether this person has bought twice or not, right? So what you need to do, we normally do is we go into the back end of the e-commerce and we scour, we run queries and figure out, hey, all of these 1,000 customers, like, so these 300, they keep buying, they're buying like 2 or 3 times. You want to kind of get that data, and then you figure out where these people came from, right? It's not a straightforward thing, but it's important for you to know where really your customers come from, right? But returning visitors means just people who come to your website. It doesn't mean they bought anything, right? So Google Analytics doesn't really do a very good job at that. So, but this metric is still important, returning customers. So you may have to go and use your shopping cart data to get that out. Fourth is sort of conversion rate by source. So this is very, very important because it tells you conversion rate means which channel is the most effective. So if you're sending emails, usually emails are like 3 times more higher conversion rate than say like paid search or like Facebook or this sort of thing. I mean usually, right? So that means if you send 10 visits from an email, it's 3 times, or it's 100 visits from an email, you get 3 transactions versus say a paid search one that usually sort of averages around 1 or 1.5 per transaction or whatever it is, right? So it depends on what business it is, but then you know what to narrow down onto it and what to kind of focus on, so conversion rate by source. Number 5 is what I call the median revenue per customer. It means like on average, so people use average revenue per customer. I don't like to use average because it sort of skews everything. I prefer to use a median. I mean, if you don't know what a median is, sort of look it up. It's sort of like in the middle. In terms of the number of the amount that people actually buy. So if people spend a median revenue of say 150, 180 bucks, then you have an idea how to extrapolate your customer lifetime value, right? Your lifetime value. So if 150 bucks a month, or you multiply by 12, that's that's your 12-month value for your customer. And 6 is frequency of purchase per customer, right? So how often does this person buy, right? And also, of course, quantity in terms of number of items that they normally put in the cart, right? So if people normally in outstation, they will sort of load up on stuff, right? And they get it delivered in one go. Some people buy a fridge or a washing machine all in one go, and sort of save and sort of get it all done, so that they can sometimes work out better shipping arrangements. All right, so these are the things I think are important metrics to look for. Of course, there are things that you hear about like sessions and unique visitors and bounce rates and all this kind of stuff. And to me, yes, those are metrics that show you the big numbers of, okay, yeah, there are so many people coming on our website, but so what? I mean, if you want to kind of drill down to what is important for you to make it actionable, I choose these metrics. All right? So like, for example, you go and analytics shows you the proportion of people who come back to your site, right? And you can see here transactions. That means how many of the people who actually buy, how many of them are actually people who come back over and over again. So like you can see that like 70% of them like come back over and over again, right? So it's important to get people to come back over and over again, isn't it? Right? Of course, if you have a crappy product, they probably like, you know, you bribe them so they won't come back, okay? So how do people come back to buy? So like, you drill down some more, one level down. Yeah, so all these people, returning customers who came back, they came back from Google Ads, they came back from organic searches, they came back direct. Direct means you sort of key in or bookmark your sort of website directly. And so like emails, I say emails have the highest ROI usually, but of course there is a cost to acquiring email, right? So maybe your funnel part of it is getting related people to just give you their email addresses. So you run campaigns to actually just do that. So that's why when you break down a funnel, you know exactly what you want to do for this month, next month, or you combine it with getting returning customers and getting new customers, right? So like for example like this, I know that I need to get email addresses. So what I do, I drive traffic to get email addresses. So I get like 12,000 email addresses just from display advertising, right? Just drive traffic doing that, right? So then why do I get emails? Because if I look at the data in terms of the revenue that I get, I mean this is all sort of last click attribution, but I can see that the things that I can control, so organic search I can't really control because it's SEO, right? And the Google dictates that, right? Direct is obviously people who know me already. I mean, that sort of depends on whether people know me. I can't really control that either. Referrals, yes, you can a little bit. You know, you can get people to write about you in social networks or blogs. But the ones that you can really control more often than not are things like paid advertising or display, paid search, emails. So emails, you can see things you can control, like gave you $1 million in revenue, right? Last week attribution. So what should you do? You should send emails. Right? In this case, I'm not saying it applies to you, but usually you do things like that, right? So you can use, so this is an example of e-commerce tracking. So you have e-commerce tracking, you can track the revenues, average order value, and stuff like that. Okay, so if you don't install this, you won't see this data, right? So so Google Analytics allows you to do it. It's a little bit like a cash register thing that shows you, it's not real time, but you know, a couple hours, you can see it update. Then this is an example of multi-channel funnels. It tells you which one helps you convert, which ones assisted in your conversion. So Facebook campaigns, emails, which one helped you assisted in the conversion. These are, I've broken it down to people who viewed the cart. And so like this report is basically showing people who added to the cart but didn't buy yet. So you can see that a whole ton of people, yay, got me to the right end, but they didn't buy. I don't know why the reason was, but you know, some people just focus on conversions too often, but they don't realize if you break it down the funnel, sometimes it's good to see how far these people go, right? So they went as far as filling up the credit card but they didn't buy. So you want to see what sort of sources of traffic bought really there. And that's a better representation of the kind of traffic that can convert potentially rather than conversions all the time. So this is an example of multi-channel funnels, right? So like I say, then you can work out things like channels that work. I mean, again, it could be different for yours, right? And if you're using a mobile app, it could be different. And mobile apps are I can just make a caveat there, are harder to track because you don't have this sort of information. You go to the Google Play Store or the iOS store, app store, whatever you call it, and you can't really see sources of traffic very easily unless you sort of put in tracking code in your app, and it only applies to the Google Play Store, for example. It's harder to track stuff for apps, right? But for websites or mobile, it's sort of anything sort of internet related which has a browser enabled, things channel that work could be like this. So acquisition could be Facebook with paid search and Instagram, right? And then what assists you could be the remarketing. So you land on your website and say, hey, you went to the product page, you added the cart, here, I'm going to flash you an ad. And then, so here's a tip for you, right? Everybody out there, if you want to buy cheap stuff, you know what you do? So just go and add the cart, and don't do anything, you get it cheaper. Because all the guys out there are doing it. They give you a coupon to get you to come back, right? So you want it cheaper, you just add the cart and don't do anything. Because you need to do it more intelligently that way, right? So you need to do it where maybe you layer it in terms of how engaged the customer is and how long they spend and stuff like that. And try not to give too much discounts, only towards selected things. Because margin sort of eroding stuff, at the end of the day, you don't make that much. If you give too much of that sort of deals. Do value-based deals, for example, bundle deals like buy one and this product X plus Y at this particular price, that kind of stuff. More of that, right? And sort of balance out your offers. And then you can figure out who closes for you, right? So these are, if you know all this stuff that I just talked to you just now about, you can work out all these, what channels work for you, and you put more effort and put more money in there, right? And then you should also segment, like I talked about just now. So the feature where you segment your users. So you segment, hey, I'm going to just look at all the converters, how they behave. This is where you do it under segments in Google Analytics, right? So you just then narrows everything down to people who are really sort of doing things that you want them to do, like buying or signing up. Then of course, once you segment, of course, then you can drill down. Hey, these are my campaigns that work for me, just based on people who convert. Then I can say, hey, these campaigns work for me. I'm going to do more of this stuff. I'm going to do more applications in Facebook, more higher deals or whatever it is, right? Okay. So that's the end of my presentation. So I thought I'd put you guys to sleep. But in a nutshell, Google Analytics is a free tool, and I highly encourage you to do more with it. Any questions? I mean, I'm not sure whether I kind of answered, sort of key issues you have in your current business. Yes.
Yes, I'm very new to business.
Okay.
So I only just have a website.
Right.
So what is actually your suggestion? Meaning I tell like the Google AdWords, what is Google advertising, and what is creating?
Oh, okay. I'm not sure where I'm the right person to talk about Google Ads, but yeah, I mean, although it's something that we do as well. But so Google advertising is basically divided into two types of advertising. So that usually means like search advertising is a big part of it, right? That means if someone searches for it, keys in the keyword. Maybe a product. What's the product you're selling?
MSA sound system service.
So sound system. So I don't know, a particular keyword. I don't know, sound systems Malaysia or something like that. I don't know. So that is the target you would think your customer is going to key in. You will buy advertising based on that, and the person that keys in, sees the ad, clicks on it, lands on your website, and your website has to be clear enough to get them to maybe your goal is to get them to call you, right? So you need to put in your phone number in there, clear enough so they call you, and you make sure that phone number is a unique phone number that doesn't muddle up with the reception or anything like that, and like pamphlets and all those things. And you know this phone number is yours. Then you know every time this phone rings, it's from the Google ad, right? Okay, that's one part of Google advertising. The other one is what I call display advertising, which is sort of in your face. So like if you have a product that's new, nobody knows about it, no one's going to search for it, right? So then you obviously need to inform people. That's why you have to be in your face. It's called interruption marketing, display advertising. So you can put it on YouTube, you can put it all on the websites that are partnered to Google. In terms of being able to display the advertising on the website and to show you the messages, that's why you see banner ads and that kind of stuff. Right? That's display advertising. So you use both in different ways, right? And display advertising also has a very powerful feature in there called remarketing that allows you to follow people around based on certain triggers that you set and whether they visit a page or they did something. And it allows you to do that, right? And of course, there are other platforms. Even Facebook allows you to do that as well. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right. So it helps you. So how is it relevant to the funnel? The funnel could be people who come in, acquisition, could be searches, right? So you just buy search for that, right? And you have a budget, buy very targeted keywords. And the people come in from search and then they land on your website, hey, it's interesting, but maybe I'm going to come back later again and buy. So then you flash them a remarketing ad to convince them to come back again to do it if they didn't sign up, for example. So you say, show me a remarketing ad only for people who didn't sign up, right? If you sign up, that's awesome, right? So you can use these different tools to communicate again with the customer. So advertising today is very, very powerful because it enables you to communicate in a way that normally you wouldn't be able to do, right? So that's how it pretty much works, I think, in general. Any other questions? The gentleman in the back, t-shirt.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can I share with us the healthy value of the key matrices that you shared just now?
Sorry?
The healthy values of the key matrices.
The key
Matrix.
values of?
Key matrix that you shared just now.
Which one is that?
Yeah, the key matrix. The top 5 something.
Oh, the key metric, this one.
The healthy values.
But I think like returning visitors should be like more than 50%, like more than half of your customers, like 60% should be a good number to look at, especially if it's e-commerce, right? But if you're a normal company website, you don't expect people to come back 60% all the time, like, unless you have a ton of content. Then yes, if you're a content-based website, and I'll classify an e-commerce site as a little bit like content because it has a lot of products, right? So you want to encourage people to come back over again to look at this stuff. So 60%, I think is a good number for that. Then obviously you need to drill down by whatever out of 60%, what's the percentage of source comes from. That depends on what kind of business it is and how much you spend on it. So that one, I don't really have a magic number for that. Returning customers percentage of revenue, number 3. Well, it should be, normally I see it's like 70-80% of people who usually come back and buy constitute most of your revenues, right? If you're a stable business already, or e-commerce business. Conversion rate by source, it depends. It ranges from, I've seen websites like from retailers that range from 0.5%, that's because people convert from offline, to like 1 to 2.5%, 2% conversion rate for e-commerce site. It's quite, I think that's quite, the decent range around it. Median revenue per customer, it depends. Depends on what kind of product it is, right? So if you sell more expensive things, obviously more. Frequency of purchase, okay, it depends on the product. So you sell electronic goods, so maybe it could be the wider, you don't buy a handphone every day, but you could be buying a handphone and you can buy a power bank in 2 weeks' time, that sort of thing. So you have to cross-sell, but electronic stuff is big. You have to cross-sell a lot, right? Fashion, obviously, there's a higher element of frequency because women buy more stuff more frequently, and it's a fact. And I agree with, I think Sean mentioned about women. It's got the right demographic. Women are sort of rabid shoppers, buy a lot. And I mean, they cover, married women cover even a bigger sweet spot, right? Because married women, they control the household budget, they control the husband's budget to buy their underwear, they control the kids' budget, and they have their own stuff to buy. It's an awesome sweet spot, actually. Guys, maybe electronical stuff, like electronics kind of stuff, usually, girls sort of thing, but they normally don't buy, they're not very good customers, generally, from my observation. Any other questions? Yeah.
I agree that email marketing can be really effective
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of this, feedback tells me that email marketing is actually at a low in the past 2 years. Do you agree with this, and what other strategies can we take to overcome this?
Well, I mean, I think it definitely affected it. I mean, I agree, but it has. I don't think. I disagree to the point that it's like it's not useful anymore because it hasn't. People are still making money here selling emails, and so I mean, I don't profess to be an email marketing expert. I'm not. I mean, I do more analytics, but like, yes, there are ways to kind of. First, I think the first thing you need to do is get a good email provider, someone who has, that is on the whitelist. Has your own IP and stuff like that. And pretty free. You don't share it with spammers and stuff like that. So get a good provider. Sometimes you can use, like MailChimp is a good start. I mean, it can get a bit expensive after a while, but it has good open rates and delivery rates. So to your point, sometimes again, how you, if people like your email and they open it before, usually the spam filters will be able to know that they have opened it before. So that's the best way to kind of get people opt-in. Some people obviously, like I've been seeing these websites where they say, hey, you know what? If you want to get more stuff from me, can you please sort of cut and paste this my email address and put it into your Gmail and the address box and to make it so like kosher. You can do that too, but depends on how people will really do it. I don't know how we do it. But I think easiest if you send an email, people are already interested. They open your emails. That's the best way to get opt-in, so you won't go into the spam filter. But of course, email has, I think Google themselves have sort of latched on to this email thing as well. If you notice, you go to your Gmail right now, you see those ads, you click on it, it goes to the promotion. They actually have this ads that actually drive you to emails. You can actually pay for that. I think it's in beta or something, where it was. So to your question, I don't think it's dead. It's in fact alive and kicking, right? Anyone else? No questions? I didn't miss anyone, yeah? No? Right, so no questions then. Thank you very much for your time. And I hope